Yeah, here. Anyway, we have a guest today. We have a friend with us. This is Aaron Smith. A lot of you might recognize him. Well, maybe not. He had more hair when he was with us.
Not that much more.
And a hat.
Huh?
And a hat.
And a hat. When were you with us?
2013 to 17.
2013 through 17. Wow. It's been a while. I've been here that long. I have been here that long. And he's got an interesting story that usually we let people tell their own stories, but I have aspects of his story I really want him to highlight. So we're going to do an interview process. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this on a Sunday morning, and we're on video, so all of our mistakes will be live for everyone to see. And we have not talked exactly about what we're going to talk about. I just sent him some questions, and maybe we got some answers. So it's good to see you. Thank you for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Anything you want to say before I get started?
No, I mean, it has been a minute. I was thinking about that on the drive over.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my wife, Brittany. She's here.
Hi.
She's been along for the whole ride, too, because we were dating when I started.
Yeah.
Now we're married, so she's been around for it, too.
So you weren't officially an intern with us, but you did a lot of interny things, and you worked with when Bonner was in its heyday. You were with that. Two stories I want to tell before we get started. The first time I told him to mop the floor, he came to me a little bit later. He goes, maybe we should sweep it first, after he mopped it. But fast forward.
I don't remember that.
But fast forward a couple of years later, after he has been away from us for a while, he wanted to swing by and hang out with us, and I was down on the floor painting the lovely things right there. And he came in and he just grabbed a paintbrush and started painting with us. So that's the kind of guy Aaron is. There are very few people in this world that I can remember the day we met. And we're going to take you back to the day we met. Do you remember that day? All right. And the day we met, we were doing, what was it? I was a campus minister at Widener University. And we were at the Journey Church. How long have you been at the Journey Church?
I have not been there since like 2014.
At the day
10 years.
Yeah. At the day we met, how long
had I been there?
Had you been part of that church?
8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years. And Brody Smith was there. And I went, and Brody said, we got this kid going to Widener University. You should talk to him. I was like, yes. A guy who's been in church for years. The guy's ready to go. I went and said, I'm going to have a conversation with this kid. He's going to help me out in my ministry at Widener. And I went and I had a conversation with him, and we talked. And 5 minutes into the conversation, the thought crossed my head. I am never going to see this boy again. So tell me about your life at that point. Where was your head? Where were you? How did you get there? What were you thinking? What was life for you?
Yeah, so about that time, I was getting ready to go to school, and I knew the direction, the general direction I was going, but I didn't know the specifics. I just knew, I'd been at that church for a minute. I knew that I was going to be leaving that community. I was going to live on campus. I mean, I'm not that far away. I was in Westchester, but I was going to live on campus. So I knew there was going to be a void there, but I didn't really know what that meant at that point. So I was just kind of open to the changes that were going to come in my new phase of life in school and stuff. But I didn't really have I didn't know that was specific, I need to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to, it just was we'll figure it out when we get there.
And what was your feeling about doing ministry on campus? What were your thoughts with church at that moment?
My church relationship was a little complicated. So the reason I was at the church I was at is my dad was involved with starting the church, so we were super intimate there. And though he wasn't on staff there, we still did a lot of stuff. And I had just been through a couple of life circumstances that specifically put me in a spot where I was like, I didn't know it at the time. I can say this now in hindsight, but at the time I was in a position where I needed to not be. I needed a change. I think had I stayed in that environment, things could have been, like the timing had been perfect. Like if it had been a year earlier and I'd spent a year in that environment, it would have been a much more difficult position for me. I think right then and there it was like the perfect time to start over and to
Because you had this attitude of I'm done with this.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I'm done with it, but I definitely was like, I'm okay with a break. I could go for a prolonged break for right now.
Okay. That happens. You just get tired, you get stressed, you get people pulling you and telling you what you need to do, and that's what I've told college students all the time is that you're making your faith your own. You got to work on that. And in high school, when you got so many people telling you this is how church is supposed to be, and is it always like that? And no, you realize that church isn't what you grew up in high school with. So what were your plans entering college? What were you planning on doing? What was your major? What was your plan? Tell me all of that story. Why did you choose Widener University?
They gave me money.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't haphazardly choose Widener, but it was as simple as that was where the money was. So that decision got made for me. Going in, I was going to study business and international relations, and very quickly pivoted out of that. Still stuck with the political science, international relations stuff. Couldn't do the business stuff. It made my stomach turn. I just was like, I can't do this. Yeah, but I mean, beyond that, I had no, like I said, I was trying to come in with a blank slate and see what was going to pop up. The one thing I did know is I was going to participate in the Bonner program, which, like Hair said, was very robust at the time.
What is the Bonner program? Tell us all about that.
Yeah. So we had to do, was it 150? That feels great.
The number changes.
Yeah,
It changed.
A whole heck of
we had to do a lot of
hours.
community service. There was a bunch of other stuff attached. We had to do meetings and some college-related, admission stuff. But the big bulk of it was I needed to do community service, so I knew I was going to do that program. I came in knowing that that was going to be a large part of my college experience. And then, are you going to tell the freshman orientation story?
No, you don't let you tell it. Just
So then I came in to the freshman orientation, with that on my mind, like I got to find a place to do all my volunteering. And coincidentally enough, Hair was there, giving out water and helping people move. And we got to talking. There was a couple of us that had kind of met Hair separately, and then we all three kind of were like, oh, we met this guy named Hair. How many people named Hair do you know? And that's how I got introduced to Hair, and to Lagos, and to that community. But yeah, at that point, it still was kind of like, it was over there. I had other things on my mind, so.
because you weren't planning on being in campus ministries.
No, not at all.
Why not?
I think kind of what you alluded to earlier, where I just kind of thought that it was going to be more of what I was expecting and more of how I had always grown up and perceived church to be, in that kind of community to be. And it wasn't that I was like hostile to it, but I was like, if this is more of the same, then I'm good. I don't need more of the same.
What changed your mind? I'm in a weird sequence. What changed your mind?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I was thinking about it on the drive over this morning. And I think even though I didn't feel like I needed it, I think there was a part of me that knew I did. And so I think I latched on to the first couple of people that weren't even necessarily Lagos people. It was just people that were faith-minded. And then when all of them were like, hey, there's only really one option on campus at the time, I was like, all right, great. I guess that's where we're going. So we're all going to go together. And it just kind of like happened more out of like inertia than like out of conscious movement?
Logos is was the Bible study that we had set up. We'd been on campus for about 2 years before you got there, baby.
Yeah. Too.
Yeah, and there was nothing. He was right. There was nothing on campus before we got there. We'd started Logos out of, well, let me give you this background to understand where that was. Chuck was a chaplain. I was looking for ministry stuff to do. I became a chaplain, and then suddenly we're like, hey, let's start a Bible study out of our service. I skipped a step. We moved one of our worship services on the campus of Widener University. We had a night worship service, and we had the opportunity to move that on there. And the kids were like excited, and they were flocking to it. And they said, hey, can we get a Bible study out of this? We started a Bible study, which turned into the student org Logos, which is the word for word in the book of John in the Bible, the Greek word for word. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. So we've been running for about 2 years when Aaron, like I said, when I met him, he was like, I'm done. Or I don't think I need you. It's like, okay, we'll be here if you want us.
That's a good way to put it.
We'll be here if you want us. But if you don't want us, I'm not going to force it on you. And Logos was a bit I thought it was a bit different than church. How was Logos different than the church that you went to, or that you're used to?
I think the biggest difference was we did life outside of that one context.
Yeah.
So like church context was Sunday morning, Bible study, and that's the only environment you interacted. Maybe there were some people at church that you met, for dinner on the weekends or whatever, but because it was like that school environment, like you're interacting with these students in class, in the cafeteria, on campus, and like you just do life.
Yeah.
You're like, we're gonna go hang out in the quad and just play frisbee or whatever activities college students do. Yeah, it was just like, it was more organic, it was more natural, and it was like, there's a lot more to these people than just like what they're regurgitating in our Bible study. You actually get to hear about the way they approach the world. There were people in that Bible study that came from different faith backgrounds, like Viraga was around, who grew up in Sri Lanka as Buddhist, and then we had Rachel Rachel's last name, who grew up Catholic. And then we had a couple people involved that had no background. So it was just like, there was different faith background element, there was different life background element, and all of that kind of came together of, these are people that I can actually learn from and hear from, versus just the people that, I just keep hearing the same stuff over and over again.
Now you are, we've invited a lot of people here from the other thing that you did in college, which we appreciate, is you got involved with our food pantry. How did you get involved with our food pantry? Why did you choose the food pantry? And tell us your story about the food. A lot of the things that we set up now, that we do now, this guy helped set up.
Yeah. So like I said, I was looking for a place to do service, and I just didn't love a lot of my options. And then through Logos and interacting with those guys, I met PC. Chris was there too. Chris did Sunday night church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
We had a whole rock band, by the way.
Yeah, the little chapel.
They moved.
It's not there anymore.
I didn't.
So I met everybody, and then PC took me to the church, and we were walking around, and he was talking about all of his dreams and aspirations, because I'm sure everybody is super shocked to learn that Chuck has big dreams, and he's always thinking about the next big thing. I know, crazy.
God has a calling on your life, and Pastor Chuck has a plan for you.
And I was like, great, like this is much more comfortable. I was also not, like a lot of the community service stuff already had like teams around it. There were already like 15 to 20 students involved. And that was just not my shtick. I was much happier to do something that could kind of be on my own, and I could work a little bit, not autonomously, but at my own pace, and like not have to rely on other people. So that's how I just built it. And then
Built it.
Chuck had me over to his and Joy's house, and we sat in the living room, and he gave me this big old binder of stuff that they had done, had never done but wanted to do, and stuff that they had only dreamed about, and we flipped through that. It was a whole thing. So like, over the next 3-4 weeks, I kind of got an idea for where Chuck had a vision for, and that was it. It was go.
Yeah?
Yes, I did that for 4 years. I spent the summer, that summer after my freshman year, interning, just like, I didn't want to go home. So I just stayed on, I stayed around. I stayed at the, I can't remember what it's called now, but the place, yeah. Did some stuff there, and then just, that was like my first year, was just kind of outlining and getting everything ready, and we were giving out food, and at that time, it was mostly just TFAP food, so government food, pantry stuff. And then the Spark Notes is, by the time I was done, I tried, and I guess it was moderately successful, but I tried to have a replacement plan, so I had students that were years younger than me to take over for when I left, and we had food donation pickups at a bunch of places, and yeah, we didn't grow a ton, but we were doing a lot of stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I got to just kind of be there at the beginning, and I think the thing I was most happy about is that after I left, it wasn't just dead, and that there were people ready to go after I left. Made it feel, I don't know, more. That's the most rewarding part of it, is knowing it wasn't just me, that it was a team of individuals that had all kind of come along for the ride.
And words are hard right now. I'm going to stop for a minute and think. I got a couple of things going on. And one of the thoughts was 2014 happened. And in 2014, two major events happened in my life. My dad passed away, and then I got kicked off campus. And you were left holding the reins for, or you picked up the reins for Logos.
Did do that.
Did
do that.
What was that experience like?
It sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. We went from having a thing that worked and was good and had infrastructure around it and had rhythms around it to reinventing the wheel almost overnight.
Yeah.
Because that was mid-school year?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Was it after I got back from my study abroad? Or was it during?
It might have been during. I don't know. It was in February of 2014.
Okay, I was back.
Yeah.
So it was literally like overnight. Yeah, we had to figure out what that meant. So we relied on some of the older students that had been around to cobble together what we could to bring some structure back into it. Hair supported where he could. But it was awkward. It went from being a church-adjacent, parachurch organization supported by PC and Hair to being a student-run, entirely student-run thing. Obviously, Hair was there behind the scenes, but it was a lot of work. And you have school and all the school-adjacent stuff, and then volunteering, and then that. There's just a lot more than I realized I was signing up for at the time. But we did it. I can't really give you a super articulated reason why, other than somebody had to, and I was there, and I said yes. It wasn't this grand moment where I'm like, I'm
gonna be the president of Logos and do things.
It was just someone had to keep it going, and I said yes.
And I'm glad you said yes. None of this stuff is going to be so. None of life. God never said life was going to be easy. God never said life was going to be smooth. He did say His yoke is easy and His burden is light, but He didn't say the rest of it was going to be easy. He said we're going to carry you through. We're going to make it, and I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And that's why I wanted you to tell your story. These parts of your story. And all right, so let's fast forward this. You graduated college and you went off to work in the real world.
Yeah.
What was your first job outside of college?
My first job out of school is I was answering phones at Vanguard, because they were the first people to say, we will pay you to do something for them.
And how did you like that job?
It was horrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
What kind of job were you pursuing in life?
So the reason I took the job is I wanted to do, I was doing all this nonprofit stuff here, so I wanted to continue with that. And the Vanguard Foundation is a phenomenal foundation. I really wanted to work at the Vanguard Foundation, but not a lot of people work at the Vanguard Foundation. So I naively was like, well, if I start working at Vanguard, maybe I'll end up there. And I found very, very quickly through that process that was not going to happen. But I mean, the motivation for working there was so that I could eventually work for the Vanguard Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a well-paying, good job.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it definitely was cool.
Yeah.
They did some fun stuff.
And along the way, we heard that you left that job and you found, did you go to the garage immediately, or is there something in between?
Yeah, which was also a terrible job. It was like a small finance firm that I just basically helped the marketing team when they would go on road trips. And again, that was just another, I was completely miserable. I realized that working at Vanguard was a big mistake. I just needed something, and that, it just popped up out of nowhere. I just was...
And if it pops out of nowhere, you know that's God, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I mean, that's kind of what I told myself. I got an email one day from somebody that's like, we're looking to hire, you meet our criteria, do you want to interview? And then by the end of the week, I had a new job. And it was a lot smaller, so that was nice. But I mean, aside from that, it was just, this thing popped up and I took the opportunity to leave the very miserable position that I'm in.
Now, this is a part of the story I don't know, is how did you find the garage? Tell us about your experience with the garage. What is the garage? How did you get there? Why did you decide to do it? And what are you doing now? Do it all.
Yeah.
The rest
So the rest of the story is I worked at that finance job for not very long, and then they lost a ton of money and had to lay off a bunch of people. So I was jobless. After being newly married, we'd been married, what, a month? 2 months? Yeah. We'd been married 2 months, and they were like, oh, you don't have a job anymore. So I was back on the job market trying to figure out where I was heading, knowing that I wanted to head back into the nonprofit. I knew that's where I wanted to go, and I just kept getting distracted. So I was trying to find something nonprofit related and head that way. And nonprofit doesn't pay well and doesn't have.
I was just going to make that observation.
Yeah,
it's kind of in the name.
Exactly correct.
Well,
So and
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot to choose from, and the stuff that there was to choose from was either way, way beyond me, or it was like volunteer work 2.0. It was not good. But I found the garage. So the garage is an after-school youth program located in, we have 2 locations, one in Avondale and one in Kennett Square, so right up Route 1 as you head out the county. Found them, knew nothing about them. Found out later that I had a lot of connections to them, but I didn't know that at the time. And yeah, it was just back to some stuff that I really enjoyed. It was working with, I didn't know that I was going to enjoy working with young people. I'd always kind of thought about teaching. That was always in the back of my head too, of if this whole nonprofit situation doesn't work out, maybe I could teach. So I wasn't against working with young people, but I never pictured myself working with young people. But I did. And yeah, just started off just doing the grunt stuff that no one else wanted to do. I filled a lot of holes that hadn't been filled. Did a lot of the manual labor stuff that at the time no one was really doing. And just kind of whittled myself up to a point where I'm now, I oversee one of those 2 locations. I serve about 250 students a year. The majority of those students are Latino. The majority of our parents do not speak English. A good chunk of our students don't speak English.
And did you take Spanish?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah, I took Spanish in high school. I studied abroad in Latin America in college. My Spanish is still not, despite how much time in my life I've spent studying Spanish, is still not where I want. But I get the job done. It's just not pretty. Yeah, and I love it. It's so good. Working with the students is the fun part. All the back end stuff is the not fun part. But yeah, I've been there since 2019, so I've been there a minute. went through the whole COVID situation where we reverted back to my food stuff for a couple of years. Got to use a lot of that skill I got from PC in the pantry, and then as soon as we got out of that, I vowed to the executive director that we should never ever do food stuff ever again, because food stuff is thankless and very difficult, and it consumes your entire life. All things that I learned upstairs. So we did that for a minute, and yeah, I mean, we do a lot of stuff. We're super busy. We are an after-school program primarily, so students come in for homework support, emotional support. We have an on-site counselor that sees our students that sign up once a week. We have an art program with a full-time art teacher that is getting her degree in art therapy right now. We have a gym and a person who has gone through a bunch of trainings to work with students and do trauma-informed weightlifting. And we do a lot of stuff to support our high school students trying to graduate and whatever they want to do after they graduate. So look for jobs, apply to jobs, look for schools, apply to schools, find money to pay for school, learn about new careers, get driver's licenses, whatever it is that they need to be successful after they graduate. And then we fill in all the other gaps. So if a student comes to us and they're having an issue, we try to support them in some way or connect them with somebody who can better serve their needs. And my role in all that is I'm like at the middle of the spider web, and I try to make sure that everything is running smoothly, make sure that we're connecting with the students kind of outside of our time with them during our program. So a lot of connecting with school and counselors and teachers at school, spend a lot of time trying to build new relationships with people at those schools. Just makes our life easier the more people that we have that are comfortable with us and our doors. And then the unglamorous part about my job is I do a lot of the data end. So I help our executive director and our director of development with any data tracking for reports for people who are currently giving us money, or we're trying to write a grant so that they can start giving us money. So anything that's related to a data thing, I've probably touched somewhere along the way.
So how has your experiences with us prepared you for what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that it taught me is there's no one better to get something done right now than you. And that's basically all I do. There's a lot of just stuff that you didn't plan for, stuff that pops up, stuff that changes. In nonprofit world, there's also a lot of stuff that no one gets paid to do that somebody's got to do. Actually, a lot of times in the nonprofit world, there's a lot of people that don't get paid to do but have to do. So I mean, whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I do a lot of that, and I mean that was a direct correlation to being here. It's not fun, but like in order to serve the needs of the people or the students or the clients or the neighbors, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do the unglamorous stuff on the back end to make sure that happens. And yeah, that's you.
Yeah. Wow. How can we be praying for what can we be praying for you and the garage this time?
Yeah, I think the two big things that are kind of just ongoing are, I'm sure that there's going to be a bunch of studies done in the future, but all of our students kind of across the board are just really struggling with mental health. It's just not good. Connection, like building friendships is just not happening holistically. Motivation for doing anything outside of anything school or work related is super, super low. Self-confidence is super low. I would say that's a blanket statement across all of our students. And that's just something that, like we have the counselor that meets once a week, but they can only see 2 students a week, 3 students a week. And the need's a lot higher. So that's just something that prayer for us to be able to help these students navigate in our unprofessional capacity, prayer for getting more professional capacity to come and support those efforts, finding connections for our students to go seek professional help. Because there's a lot of stuff, and we can be as supportive as we can, but at the end of the day, it does reach a point where we're just not the people to be able to serve that need anymore. And we're there with a lot of our students. The other thing is just with all the, like I said, the majority of our students are Latino, majority of our parents don't speak English, so all the immigration stuff that's happening right now is a huge, huge, huge weight on a lot of our students and our families' shoulders. We actually had to cancel a parent event a couple weeks ago because there was just a lot of wariness in the community about some raids that were going to be happening. So so far we've not had any students go through this, but we have had friends of students have parents deported and then ended up not having any parents here to take care of them and have had to find alternative living situations while their parents have been detained. The general just mental health anxiety of living in that space is just super high. And then just because everything is so it's been closed, very protective for years, but it's more so. So there's a lot of stuff going on at home that doesn't get talked about now. Where a few years ago, a student would have come to us and been like, we're struggling with food, we're struggling with this, my dad's struggling with that, my mom's struggling with this. Now, none of that stuff gets shared because we don't want anybody sniffing around in our business. And so we don't find out till generally something really not good has happened versus at the front end.
Okay. Now, the last question I had sent you was, is there a scripture verse that has resonated with you, with the path that the choices you have made? And do you have one?
Yes. I had two, actually. So the first one, I thought PC was going to bring up in Kids Corner, and then you pivoted a little bit. But it's the Matthew section, but there's Mark 10. The Lord came not to be served, but to serve, and lay down his life as a ransom for many. Has been with me for a long time. I kind of fight that battle every day of where very quickly when you're serving people, you go from this I am serving them in the way that they need to I'm serving them in a way that I need. And that line is very thin. And constantly I'm finding I've been engaging with the student this way because I think this is what they need. And then I realize we've been going the wrong way and we have to, I've been trying to put in what I think they need to do, not what actually needs to be done. And to humble myself to listen and to slow down and let them kind of meet me instead of me try to shove it into them. The other is, have you started Jonah yet, or you're about to start Jonah?
We're fixing to start Jonah.
Yeah, the book of Jonah has just been, for 2 years now, has just really been on loop, that narrative of when God's people become part of the problem, when God's people are nope, those people aren't worth saving, I don't want you to save them, because I know if I go there, you're gonna save them, but I don't want them to be saved. I fight that a lot. In my subconscious of they're just people where I'm just frustrated with and I have no compassion whatsoever, and just that reminder of that's not the position that I'm supposed to be in.
Very good. And that was the last question I'd sent you, but the last question I'm going to ask you is there anything you would have done differently in your journey?
There's a couple things I think about having done differently. I don't know if I would say I would do them differently, but I've thought about it. The first is, instead of going the route I went, just starting right off with education, I'm basically doing education right now, just in a non-school context, and how much better I would be with what I'm currently doing with more of an education background. And then obviously, I'm seeing a lot of students outside of the classroom, but there's only so much you can do outside of the classroom and how much bigger of an impact I could be making in the classroom. So, but I don't know if I would necessarily do that differently. I just think about it a lot.
Okay.
There's lots of little stuff. I wouldn't work at that finance job. That was terrible. Super confidence destroying.
Oh, good.
I don't think so.
He's a good answer. Well, here's a verse I'm going to leave with you, with all of us. This is a verse that has defined I love messy paths. I don't like straight paths. That you see where you're going, you get there. I've never seen anybody do that.
But God's supposed to.
I've seen
straight.
detours and winding roads to get us to where we think, where God says, and Proverbs 16:9 has been one that has that describes all of these. It says, "Ooh, the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps." And then I found this one this week, and I don't have this one as memorized, so I need to put my eyeballs on. Don't get old.
I'm already losing my hair.
You've lost your hair. Isaiah
I
30.
found him, he's right there.
30 verses 20 and 21. And the Lord, though the Lord give you bread of adversity and water of affliction, yet your teacher will not hide himself anymore, but your eyes shall see your teacher, and your ears shall hear the word behind you, saying, "This is the way, walk in it." When you turn to the right or turn to the left. The voice of God directs us. And yes, I chose that because of the Mandalorian. This is the way. God's voice, God guides us. God takes you from point A to point Z and several points in between, and they're not always in the order that you want to be. But God takes you from the person you are, in our case, from the man that we are, and makes us the men we're supposed to be. Ladies, he's going to take you from the woman that you are and take you to be the woman you're supposed to be. Everything that, my experience with all the jobs that I've had has prepared me for the next job. And I've been able to use that and take something from every job, the bad ones too. I've learned something from them. Usually not to do that again. But God has taken these messy trips to lead us to where we're supposed to be and doing good work and doing ministry. The garage is doing great work. The Foundry is still supporting you guys. We get you backpacks every year, and I'm pretty sure that's appreciated.
Yeah, we give them away at Christmas. We actually take all the stuff out of the backpacks and then reparcel them for Christmas and give out Bibles and toys and stuff for the kids.
And this year we made sure we got some Spanish Bibles for you.
We kept a couple just to have on the show.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you, Aaron. He's going to be around for food. There's going to be food afterwards, so hang out. You got more questions for him, talk to him. Anybody got a question from the audience?
What do you do with the kids during the summer?
Yeah.
Instead of just an after school, now school's out.
We do a 6-week summer program. We're actually in the midst of it right now. Last week was our first week. So we have them all during the day. We feed them lunch. We do something academic-y in the morning just to keep their brains engaged over the summer. So kind of rotate between reading and writing. We'll do puzzles. I'm a big puzzle person, so I'll have them do some puzzles. And then the afternoon, this summer, since we're blessed, the location that I'm at is blessed to have the art space and the gym. So every day they have a choice, but it's a mandatory choice. So they have to choose between doing an art activity, doing a gym activity, or doing some building activity with me, just to keep them doing something engaging. And then just free time. So in the summer, we take them to the park a lot, and there's a nice little creek that runs through the park, so the kids like to splash around in the water, play soccer, and just hang out, have a good time. Summer's it's a sprint, so it's exhausting, and it's 6 weeks. But it's a lot of fun, and you build way better relationships in the summer with the students. Generally, the students that we have during the summer become our core students for the school year, just because they build such a good relationship with us during the summer, and then they feel part of the group. So when the school year starts, they're like, I miss my family, so I want to go back. And then they're with us for the whole school year.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yes,
Joy?
Joy?
What age groups?
Oh, yeah. Middle and high. 6th through 12th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, not the little ones. There's not enough money on the earth for that.
That's where
No. We actually toyed with doing a kids thing in August, in between the summer program ending and the school year starting. It's just like a small little income generator. Everything we do is free of charge. I didn't say that. Everything we do is free of charge. That being said, we did toy with doing like a paid camp, only because we did some research and a lot of parents were like really wary of a free camp. They were like, "What's the catch?"
Yeah.
So we were like, we have to charge a little bit to like make it not seem like a scam. And that all fell through, and I took a hard pass on that. I was like, I will do all the data stuff on the back end. I will cook food for everybody. I will do any of that as long as I don't have to interact with tots, because not enough money on the earth.
Right, that's what I do for the summer, is to deal with kids from 6th grade and down. I understand.
How many kids do you have?
Yeah, daily it's about, well, there's 2 locations. Both locations day-to-day average between 35 and 50, depending on the time of day or time of year. And it's about, oh goodness, I should have this number off. It's about 450-ish different kids that we'll see throughout the year. So that's kids from that they came one time up through kids that came. I think we had one girl attend like 136 times last year. So, but we see a pretty big group, and we're expanding, not necessarily out of our own. Like we didn't initiate this; it's kind of just happened. But we're expanding our reach into some of the adjacent districts. So we do bus our students from school to us and from us to home. And then during the summertime, we bus them from home to us and from us to home, which is a huge resource, but we're only able to extend that resource to students who live within the school districts that we serve. If they live outside of that, they have to find their own transportation. But we've had so many students from other districts that are like, we just feel homeless. Specifically, there's like the Octorara School District, which is right on the edge of Lancaster County, that has a fairly large Latino population. There's actually an organization that does really good work in Parksburg, where that district is, that none of the students feel comfortable going there because they have no bilingual staff. And it's something that like we've had like a back and forth conversation with them about, but in the meantime, until they figure that out, like we've been busing them once a week to us. One of our staff members will take the van out and bring them. And then the Kennett Garage has started doing the same with the Unionville School District as well. So we're having these other districts reach out that are like, we have these pockets of students who are not being served by anybody. Could we get them to you somehow? Because we want somebody to be serving them. So that's been in like the last 18 months. That's really, really shot up. I think we had 12 kids from Octorara come this year, probably 25 from the charter school, and then like 5 or 6 from the Unionville School District. So it's every year it's more kids.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to pray for you, specifically right now, to end this. So everybody, bow your heads, close your eyes, reach your hands out. I would actually do the old Baptist thing. Father God, we thank you for Aaron. We thank you for his ministry, his life, his perseverance to travel to you, towards you, whether he wanted to or not. Father God, I ask that you continue to bless his journey. Bless the garage, Father, as they are continuously dealing with political strifes and physical strifes. God, just, Lord, we ask that all those kids get a glimpse and a full vision of you and who you are. Be with Aaron. Give him strength. And I will continue to follow you in Jesus' name. Amen. Remember this kid right here, he grew up here.
Amen.